What is up, Countdown City? 210 Countdown City. What's going on, Fiesta Town, Riverwalkers, Loop to Loop, Spurs Nation, Rowdy Nation, UTSA? What is up? I'm Rob Trejo Jr. You guys know me from Spurs Film Room across all social medias. So we're going to do something a little bit different here on this channel. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to start trying to go on live every day. I'm still debating if it's going to be like at 4, like it is now, 2 p.m., 12, maybe even in the afternoon. So let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Now, if you guys want to get your tip or question, comment, put on screen and discussed by me during these shows or the next show, you can always do that by dropping it in the super chat feature on YouTube, or you can go into the link in the description below. That's www.streamelements.com/a Bucking Spurs podcast /tip. Right. When you click that link, it'll take you over to the page where you can go ahead and submit your question to be here on screen. But that's not the only way that you can get your question on the show. You can go ahead and head over to our Instagram as well. And I'm doing a lot of stuff on Instagram. I'm doing a lot of stuff on Instagram stories. That's where I'm trying to interact with my viewers as much as possible. I know YouTube opened up like the post, like I can drop posts and polls and stuff on YouTube now, but where I really get after it and try to make those posts entertaining for you guys is on Instagram. So please go ahead and head over to Instagram at Spurs Film Room and then add me there. And then you guys can always be in the know of what's going on. I always do a lot of tidbits. Go check out my stories and I'll get you guys the notifications there as well. So the thumbnail for the show is all about these two guys right here, Lonnie Walker, Dejounte Murray, and we're going to be talking about today about their post that they posted on Instagram after we got bounced from against the Memphis Grizzlies. They had some thoughts about themselves, about expectations, next season. So I thought that was very interesting. And on this show, what I'm going to be doing is just, going over day by day certain topics. So if you want to know like what the topic of the day is, make sure to head over to my Instagram. I'll always be posting it there. But you can, if you're a podcast listener, you can also find all my podcast stuff on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, right here on YouTube, Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, shout out to you guys there, and then Twitter as well. What's up, Cody? See you're in the chat here. Any new OOC content? Should be, yeah, especially around draft time. They should be working on some things, but I'm going to be focusing more on my channel here, mainly because I got a son now and stuff like that. So I need to keep growing my platform, not just OOC's platform. So a lot of people on Instagram are asking, Rob, did you leave OOC? What's going on? Or did y'all break up? What's going on? No, we didn't break up. It's just right now we have a lot of I had a kid. Harrison's grinding at work. Maddie's like going through school. Destin had to like leave the country and come back. I think he's coming back this week. So we all kind of had to go our separate ways. I know it was bad timing right before the the play-in, right, and all that stuff. So a lot has happened since the last time I talked to you guys. And on my podcast, the last podcast that I put out was the 12 keys to victory against the Memphis Grizzlies. Well, go back and listen to that podcast and let me know if we did half of those things, right? We didn't do about half of those things that I felt like were going to be the keys to winning that game. And they just came out and really whacked us, right? So let's get into kind of what the topic of today is. Again, go ahead and if you want to support this show, please drop a tip in the super chat. Everything is appreciated. Or go to the link in the description below. You can also find the links to our podcast and Instagram in the description below. All right. So first off, first guy I want to talk about, man, was Dejounte Murray. And I was talking with my dad yesterday, and we're like, man, this is the first time we had talked since the play-in. And he told me, he's like, man, I got overexcited when Dejounte had that pick to start the game, picked John Morant's pocket, went down the other end for a jam. I think that got us all pretty turned up, right? So let's look at what Dejounte had to say on Instagram, okay? So on Dejounte Murray's Instagram posts, he posted, all these ups and downs are all part of the journey. These L's are all lessons and never losses. And I'm just excited for what's to come. Thank God for allowing me to make it through a full season healthy with no setbacks, heading into a monster offseason where I will take my game to a big time level. And I can't wait to come back next season bigger and better in all aspects of my game. Thank you to all the Spurs fans and fans in general who believe in me and want to see nothing less than greatness from me. Right? So first off, man, we got to give it to Dejounte for having another. I mean, last season was his first season back off his ACL injury. No setbacks this year as well. So that's 2 years under his belt. I think that does a lot for your confidence. I think when you remember back to anyone who got injured, a serious injury, it takes them more than a season to get back to true form. And Dejounte Murray this season, to me, all season long, has been that MVP, right, of the Spurs team. It was him and DeMar neck and neck, right, chasing that Spurs Nation MVP trophy. And Dejounte was pretty much the only player on the roster that I can say with confidence who got better throughout the whole season, right? Like, he started off a little bit rocky. He had a terrible game against Utah. I think he went like 3 for 13 or something like that from the field. He was missing everything. And then after that game, he started getting better and better and better, making big time plays after big time plays. How many times did Dejounte, pick someone's pocket, at the end in overtime or at the end of regulation in the fourth quarter for a big time bucket? Not only that, Dejounte started finishing around the rim on a whole other level, right? So when we look at his post here, the part about staying healthy with no setbacks, that's huge for him and his confidence. And I think this season was just a big building block to his confidence. And it showed in his play. He had a swagger. He was the one, he brought it almost every single night. He was the guy that we rode defensively all season long. Now, let's look at the beginning part of this where he says, these are all lessons and never losses. Well, they are. And as a player, you're thinking long-term, you got to learn from your mistakes. You got to learn from the losses. But they are losses. I mean, to us, they're losses, right? And to them, they should be lessons. So I don't want him to come off as, the loss doesn't hurt and it's just another lesson in the road. And to Spurs Nation, I don't want us to come out and be like, no, man, it's a loss and it hurts. He's on a track, man. Like, after this season, he made a jump that we were all waiting for, and he's learning from his mistakes. He's learning how to get better. And last year, we didn't make the playoffs. This year, I mean, we didn't even make the play-in tournament last year, right? And so this year, we made the play-in tournament. So, I mean, I guess you can say we took a step forward. But for Dejounte personally, I think he took a huge step forward. Now here he goes into talking about his offseason, that he's got a full season. And that's another thing we got to remember from last season to this season is that there pretty much wasn't an offseason. There wasn't a training camp. There wasn't a time frame to really go to work on yourself, right? They only had a month off, less than that. And most of that had to be involving rest and rehab and things like that, getting your body right. But it's during an off season where you can actually, like a 2-3 month period where you can actually do some work on your body. You can really bulk up. You can really get stronger. You can add something to your game in that type of time frame. And I think that's what Dejounte is kind of hinting here, is that he's heading into a monster offseason where he can take his game to a big time level. He can't wait to come back next season bigger and better. He mentioned this last year too, that Dejounte is looking to put some weight on, right? And I think that's something that Spurs Nation talks a lot about, hey, man, Dejounte is great defensively, but we would love it if he was able to bang a little bit more with some of the bigger guards or maybe even some small forwards across the league. I think DJ knows that too. DJ is good enough defensively, smart enough defensively, but he lacks a little bit of size in that regard. So I feel like one of the main priorities for Dejounte this offseason is to get better. Stronger, bigger, put on some weight, and really improve in that area. A lot like Derek White. Derek White's a little bit more heavier, a little bit more He just has more mass to him, so he can guard guys like Kawhi. He can guard guys like like maybe for the whole game, yeah, but I'm definitely for a lot of possessions and get the best of them. I think that's what Dejounte's goal is here this offseason, is to get physically to a point where he's able to guard multiple positions, right? And then he goes on and saying thanks for all the Spurs fans who want nothing but greatness from him, and that's Spurs Nation. I mean, we all have high expectations for Dejounte. He came into the Spurs organization while the Big Three was there. And he's the guy that's really absorbed. That he's the only guy besides Patty Mills on this roster who absorbed the culture from the Big Three and is expected to burden that load to carry it on to the next generation. That's Dejounte, right? So Dejounte knows that there's high expectations for him. And this season was a huge season in him moving towards that goal. He improved and he kept us afloat. Without Dejounte, we would have been terrible because Derek White was hurt all season long, right? So without Dejounte, we'd be in a lot of trouble, right? We'd be in a lot of trouble. So I mean, shout out to Spurs Nation. We know we all got Dejounte's back, and I know that everyone in here is pretty proud of Dejounte and how he performed this season, right? So regarding his post on Instagram, I'm all about it. There was nothing in here that kind of made me, double take in a negative way or whatever. He's got his head on straight, and I'm pretty sure, just like anyone else on the team and everyone out there in Spurs Nation, felt this loss pretty hard, right? We weren't even on the ESPN promotion for the playoffs. Like Dejounte clapped back on that on Twitter, saying like, "Yo, Spurs are in the play-in too," and then we go out and we lose. Right. And we lose the way we did, which was just a lot of guys in that game did not step up. Right. And Dejounte had a rough game too, but he started off ready to go and just wish the whole team was kind of right there with him. So in regards to Dejounte Murray's offseason thought process, I'm all about it. I'm behind him. Dejounte's in that gym right now, again, putting in that work in the weight room, putting in that work on his jumper. Something that he's going to have to add to his game is just that three ball. We saw him take a lot more three balls this year. I mean, not all that successful at it, but he's taking it. And that's like the progress. There's a progress from year to year. You go from not shooting threes to shooting threes, but not making a lot of them, to shooting more threes and making more of them, right? It's all a process. And Dejounte's got his head on straight. So the other guy on the promo here, the other Instagram post that we're going to look at is from Lonnie Walker, right? Lonnie Walker had a more self-reflecting post, and so let's go ahead and go through it. This is from his Instagram post at Buddha. He says, "Man, where do I start? As we all know, we are ourselves' biggest critic. I had high expectations for myself this season. I had high expectations for myself this season, and it didn't go as well as I expected. But you can never expect. Only control what you can. This year showed me a lot, showed how much harder I need to go. And now it's time to go. Dealt with the good, the bad, the ugly. And I appreciate every last second of it. This offseason is going to be a special one. I wanted to play in the playoffs so bad, but came up short. It hurt, but only added more fuel to my fire. This offseason is for all the underdogs out there. It's time to work harder than everyone out there and let the hard work do the talking. Love y'all. The price of success is hard work, dedication to the job at hand, and the determination whether we want to win or lose. We have applied the best of ourselves to the task at hand." Vince Lombardi. I guess that's your quote from Vince Lombardi. And then he finishes off by saying, "I will be special." Okay, so that's Lonnie Walker's quote right here. Now, there's a lot to dissect from this quote. First off, let's just look at the top of it, right? Where do I start? As we all know, we're ourselves' biggest critic. I had high expectations for myself this season, and it didn't go as well as I expected, right? So Lonnie Walker had high expectations. I think, he thought he was coming into this season and he was going to have a big role. And he had a couple opportunities this season to start. And, he's his self biggest critic. So I think he understands that he didn't meet expectations. First off, I think Lonnie understands that. Lonnie understands that the bar is set extremely high for him, and he's aware that it just didn't come through. Now, there's an asterisk on all this. Like we just talked about Dejounte, not having a really off season to bulk up and get stronger from last year to this year. Well, Lonnie Walker really didn't have, no one had the off season to get better. Lonnie Walker, for the majority of this season, I agree. I agree with exactly everything he said. The expectation was high and he fell a little short. He fell a little short offensively, defensively. It seemed like he was lost most of the time. And it seemed like this season was more about all the areas that he needs to get better at and less about all the areas where he shines, right? It was a tough season for Lonnie Walker in that regard. I think the last maybe 10 games or so, Lonnie Walker started trending upwards in a lot of areas. But, defensively, there's a lot of room to grow. And this is where he goes on and says, this year showed me a lot, showed me how much harder I need to go. And now it's time to go. Dealt with the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So I think he's aware. I think he's just so self-aware and he's right on the same page as the rest of Spurs Nation. This year showed a lot of Lonnie Walker's weaknesses. And most of it came on the defensive end. And on the offensive end, it was consistency. He wasn't there from game to game, and I'm not here to criticize or condemn Lonnie Walker at all. Over here at, we're the biggest Lonnie Walker supporters here, biggest Lonnie Walker fans. We're his hype zone. We're here for it, right? We're here to see Lonnie Walker take those huge steps, and leaps and bounds forward type of steps in his game and in his play. Offensively, he had nights where he looked like he can be the number one guy on our team offensively. Some of those were when DeMar DeRozan was sitting out. And then other nights he looked like he was lost and didn't know what to do and, didn't look conditioned enough and looked like he was getting tired and looked like he doesn't sprint up and down the floor. Like there's a lot of those in between, during those transitions from offense to defense or defense to offense. It's like, bro, we wish Lonnie would just push himself a little bit harder because he can burn everyone down the floor. Or he can get after it on the defensive end a little bit more, like go and just stick his nose in it. There was a lot of Lonnie Walker to me this year, just not in the fight. I think that's maybe my biggest gripe here with Lonnie this season is that there were so many plays defensively where he just looked like he didn't want to get in the fight. He was more just sitting back watching what happened. Didn't want to stick his nose in there for the steal or the help or going after the rebound or making someone's job tougher by guarding them full court or anything like that. Like Lonnie wasn't here for that smoke. And, that's one of the biggest areas that I think showed when he's talking about dealt with the good, the bad, the ugly, in his quote. I think that's the ugly part. The ugly part is like, bro, you need to get way more involved. You need to be impacting the game on multiple levels, not just when the ball's in your hand. And it seemed like that was the only time Lonnie Walker ever impacted the game. If he was on, was when the ball was in his hand. The bad was the inconsistency. The good was, there was some nights where he showed flashes of offensive greatness, and that's the good, the bad, the ugly in this quote here. This offseason, he goes on to say, this offseason is going to be a special one. I wanted to play in the playoffs so bad, but came up short. And it hurt, but only added more fuel to my fire. This offseason is for all the underdogs out there. It's time to work harder than everyone else. And Lonnie's another one of those guys. All of our young guys are cut from the same cloth mentally. I think they're all here to grind and put in the work and trust the process and get better year to year, and then know that there's like a long-term plan here. When he's here saying that he wanted to get into the playoffs really bad, yeah, we all did, man. I'm pretty sure all those guys did. All Spurs Nation did. We wanted Lonnie Walker to be the X factor this season. And that was one of my biggest things. If you're a subscriber to my podcast, again, sorry about the shake. subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and iTunes and rate it when you get there. Put a comment in there. He very well could be our X factor on a game to game night. And in the Memphis game, I haven't looked back at it. And that's something I do want to do. I'm going to go back and look at this game and see why Lonnie Walker was like nowhere to be found in the second half, right? I don't even think he played in the fourth quarter and all that type of stuff, bro. It's like, that tells you a lot that he just wasn't ready to compete on that level. And for me, I feel like it's all mental with Lonnie Walker. But he's ready to work. And I think that's where a lot of the work needs to be done for Lonnie this offseason is in the film room, is in that film room session with the coaches, assistant coaches, breaking down play after play after play. I know they got, that synergy computer program where they can go in and they can pull out all types of plays from Lonnie's season. They should be looking at how Lonnie's working on over screens, under screens, how he's communicating off ball. There's a lot of work that Lonnie needs to be putting in this summer. And I think he's ready to go ahead and do that. And we still have high expectations for Lonnie. I think he knows that. And so, we're all on board with that. Let's go ahead and kind of keep going. He's ready to put in the hard work. All right, so we already talked about that, right? So Lonnie Walker, those were their two Instagram posts. The reason why I made this episode all about that is because it tells us a lot about the mindset that these guys were in immediately after, not making the playoffs, and what their mindset is. Now, I went to Instagram and I put the question out there on Instagram. I let my Instagram followers know that this was going to be the topic of the day, and I wanted to know what your responses were on Instagram. So I pulled out a couple of Instagram responses I wanted to know what your thoughts are on their posts, right? To me, I'm thinking, okay, great. It's good. I like what they're saying. I understand where their head's at. It seems like their head's on straight. It seems like, they're not going to just collapse after this loss. And I wanted to know what you guys said. So make sure that if you guys want to be getting I'll be pulling out some of these comments from you guys and putting them on screen. Make sure you go and follow me on Instagram at Spurs Film Room. So these were some of the ones that I pulled out, right? And so from _Monsi_, he goes ahead and says, they're still young. Emotions got to them. Doesn't mean much. Just talk, but definitely enthusiastic, right? So Monsi's here thinking, hey, they're young. They got a lot of room to grow. And, that kind of goes into Dejounte's like lessons, man. These are all lessons that have to be learned before they can actually, adjust and overcome and learn from their mistakes and actually put the proof in the pudding. But they're enthusiastic about this offseason. And I think we all are enthusiastic about this offseason in Spurs Nation. Spurs fans ID. They will be ready to be great next season. I hope so. SB.bro.za says all talk until they prove it. We got a tough critic here. All talk until they prove it, but the self-accountability attitude towards their growth is refreshing. That's true. That's true, SB. I mean, they're all in both of their comments. They are all about understanding that there's work to be done. Dejounte is. Lonnie's very aware, right? Okay, and then that Renee says, I love grind and hunger, never settle. The only way to be great. So I think for the most part here on Instagram, you guys are kind of with me on the fact that, hey, it seems like they got their head on straight, but they still have to prove it. Like, are we going to be one of those teams that misses the playoffs for 3 to 6 years? Or can we get in next season? Are we ready to take this jump from this season to next season? And right now, just by judging, the reaction from these two players who are going to be pivotal pieces in our organization for a long time. Lonnie Walker has a big offseason coming up too. He's looking to get extended by us, right? We need to try to extend Lonnie for another few years here and give him the opportunity to keep growing. If you want to look at Lonnie Walker's season by season, he went from his first year being in Austin, Last year was his second year, full season. And, he had a lot of ups and downs, but very high ups, right? Very high ups and very little lows in his second year. And then here in his third year, I would say it was the opposite. He had more lows than he did ups, right? So he's going through it and he's trying to understand. And this season was hard on everybody, bro. Like without the rest, without the practice time and all that stuff, it was hard for everybody. And I think Lonnie was the victim of that the most on our squad here. All right, so that's going to be it here on this episode. Kept it nice and short for you guys. Want to say what's up to you guys in the chat. What's going on? If you guys want to get your question and comments on screen, first, I mean, it's very simple. Go and follow me on Instagram at Spurs Film Room and check my stories all the time. I'm posting questions in there, just like I did today. I'll be posting and pulling up some stuff to be put on screen, but you can also go to the link in the description below and go to the tip jar and drop your questions and comments in the tip jar as well. Those will guarantee your question or comment be put on screen. Or you can, if you're on YouTube, you can go ahead and drop it in the chat as well. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. This is, the first of, this is the first episode of many, hopefully, where I can start getting on here daily. I want to start doing a little bit more with you guys here right now. We kind of got a grip on the baby situation that we have here, right? We're starting to get the hang of it. So there's some room in here for Spurs Nation. I want to make sure that I try to give you guys some content regularly, not just on my podcast. If you're listening to this right now on the podcast, I'll be posting that up in a little while. Or if you're on YouTube or Facebook watching, thank you guys for hanging out. Please do me a favor, scroll down, hit that like button, put a comment in there, go Spurs go. That helps us bust through the algorithm, right? And help Spurs Nation find content from me. So I really appreciate you guys. Tomorrow we'll be back on here, hopefully same time around 4 o'clock. If not, I might try, if I can get everything done for it earlier on in the day, I might try like 2 o'clock or noon to keep this show running for you guys, right? So today was all about the comments from these two guys right here and taking a look into their mindset after the tough loss against Memphis, who right now Memphis just they're up 1-0, right? If I'm not mistaken, they're up 1-0 right now on Utah. Could have that been us? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Memphis is a good team. They gave us the business. But it's good to see that the focus right now from two of our young stars are all about putting in the work this offseason, which means these guys aren't going to go and take a 2-3 week vacation and come into camp next season out of shape and whatnot. It looks like they're going to be ready to take a step forward. And hey, man, 2 years ago, we missed the playoffs. This year, we're in the play-in. Now, hopefully, from this year to next year, we can take another step forward and just secure one of those playoff spots and avoid the whole play-in in general, get one of those top 6 seeds. That should be one of our goals for this season is get a top 6 seed, right? So thank you guys for hanging out with me. Thank you guys right here on Instagram for dropping your responses to the questions that I'm posting. Again, if you're watching this, make sure to go follow me on Instagram to stay in the know with everything we got going over here. If you want to feel so inclined to drop a tip, it goes straight to my Pamper Fund, right? So when you click the link in the description below, the streamelements.com/a Bucky Spurs podcast /tip, not only do you get your comment on screen, but hey, you help support this channel and you help the Pamper Fund over here at House Trejo, right? So thank you guys. Make sure to follow me in all these places down here below. Go Spurs Go, Countdown City, what's up, 210. All of our international followers. I did a survey on OOC the other day, and man, we have the support from all over the world here for Spurs Nation, like Australia, Trinidad and Tobago, Colombia, Russia, just Canada. There was like at least like 7 or 8 different countries, Brazil, Argentina, in the Philippines. If you're watching in the Philippines, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Do me a favor, please just hit that like button, subscribe to this channel. I just want to keep growing here as well as OOC. So this is where I'm going to be putting in a lot of my time right now here on this channel. Tomorrow we'll be back at it and we'll be talking about something else. I'll let you guys know what that is on my Instagram. So go ahead and follow me on Insta. at Spurs Film Room. All right, go Spurs, go. Catch you tomorrow.